And we have returned. You're listening to CSC Talk Radio, and it is Friday, and it has been free for all. But right now, I kind of want to take over because I want to share this with you. I have strayed from sharing all this convoluted story with you because it's exactly that. It makes you dizzy if you stop and think about it. Now, Fox News covers it all the time, all night long, and I'm worried about Hannity. I'm afraid he's going to have a stroke. But remember, I have said in the past, with the elections, with the DC occupiers occupying offices and cutting deals, that it's like a deck of cards. You can shuffle it, you can cut it, but it's still going to come up with the same faces. So, if you can't keep this stuff together any better than I can, here it is, kind of written out. And Tom Tancredo did this. Now, Thomas Gerard Tancredo, if you don't know who he is, he's an American politician from Colorado who represented the state's 6th congressional district in the United States House of Representatives back in 1999 through 2009 as a Republican. So, the plot thickens or sickens, whichever one way you want to look at it. So, if you'll remember, from 2001 to 2005, there was an ongoing investigation into the Clinton Foundation. A grand jury had been impaneled. Governments from around the world had donated to the charity. Yet, from 2001 to 2003, none of those donations to the Clinton Foundation were ever declared. Now, you would think that an honest investigator would be able to figure this out. Look who took over this investigation in 2005. None other than James Comey. Is that a coincidence? Guess who was transferred into the Internal Revenue Service to run the tax exemption branch of the IRS? None other than Lois, and he has here, be on the lookout, Bolo, Lerner. Isn't that interesting? But this is all just a series of strange coincidences, right? Just a deck of cards. Guess who ran the tax division inside the Department of Justice, Injustice, he says, from 2001 to 2005? None other than the Assistant Attorney General of the United States, Rod Rosenstein. Guess who was the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation during this time frame? Another coincidence, just an anomaly in statistics and chances, but it was Robert Mueller. What do all 4 casting characters have in common? They all were briefed and or were frontline investigators into the Clinton Foundation investigation. Another coincidence, right? Well, fast forward to 2009. James Comey leaves the Justice Department to go in and cash in on Lockheed Martin. Hillary Clinton is running the State Department official government business on her own personal email server. The Uranium One issue comes to the attention of the Hillary. Like all good public servants do, supposedly looking out for America's best interest, she decides to support the decision and approve the sale of 20% of U.S. uranium to none other than the Russians. Now, you would think that this is a fairly straight-up deal, except it wasn't. America got absolutely nothing out of it. However, prior to the sale's approval, none other than Bill Clinton goes to Moscow, gets paid $500,000 for a 1-hour speech. People, I only charge $500 to $1,000, okay? Then meets with Vladimir Putin at his home for a few hours. Was that a private meeting? Okay, no big deal, right? Well, not so fast. The FBI had a mole inside the money laundering and bribery scheme. Robert Mueller was the FBI director during this time frame. Yep, he even delivered a uranium sample to Moscow in 2009. Who was handling the case within the Justice Department out of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Maryland? None other than Rod Rosenstein. And that happened in the affirmand. The Department of Justice placed a gag order on him and threatened to lock him up if he spoke about it. How does 20% of the most strategic asset of the United States of America end up in Russian hands when the FBI has an informant, a mole, providing inside information to the FBI on the criminal enterprise? Very soon after the sale was approved, $145 million in donations made their way into the Clinton Foundation from entities directly connected to the Uranium One deal. Okay, that's all just another series of coincidences. Nothing to see here, right? Well, let's fast forward to 2015. We're going to run out of time here. Due to the series of tragic events in Benghazi and after the 9 investigations, the House, Senate, and State Department, Trey Gowdy, who was running the 10 investigations of chairman of the Select Committee of Benghazi, discovers that Hillary ran the State Department on a classified, unauthorized, outlaw personal email server. He also discovered that none of those emails had been turned over when she departed her public service as Secretary of State, which was required by law. He also discovered that there was top secret information contained within her personally archived email. Sparing you the State Department's cover-up, they floated the delay tactics that were employed and the outright lies that were spewed forth from the necks of the Kerry State Department. We shall leave it with this: they did everything humanly possible to cover for Hillary. This goes on, and we will come back to it sometime next week. We have guests all next week, so it may have to be next Friday because I think I've got guests every day next week. If you want a copy of this, and it continues, several pages, it continues in to what actually happened and when and where these people were employed, and it is the same names over and over and over again, and they're the same ones investigating the Russian collusion with President Donald Trump, which they have nothing, because what they're doing with this investigation is covering up their collusion. It's obvious, and the American people need to know about it. We'll bring this to you, but if you want a copy of this, you send me a self-addressed stamped envelope. If you could send $1 or $2 just to pay for the paper, that would be greatly appreciated, but either way, we'll get it to you. We have to know these things, and you have to understand. We have bamboozled. We have been bamboozled. And it's time for us to take a stand, take this nation back, and bring America home. Have a wonderful Labor Day.